What is work at height? Work at height means work in any place where, if precautions were not taken, a person could fall a distance liable to cause personal injury. You are working at height if you work above ground, floor level. Could fall from an edge, through an opening or fragile surface, or could fall from ground level into an opening in a floor or a hole in the ground. Work at height does not include a slip or a trip on the level, as a fall from height has to involve a fall from one level to a lower level, nor does it include walking up and down a permanent staircase in a building. What do I need to do to comply with the work at height regulations? The regulations apply to all work at height, where there is risk of a fall liable to cause personal injury. They place duties on employers, and those who control any work at height activity. As part of the regulations, you must ensure all work at height is properly planned and organized. Those involved in work at height are competent. The risks from work at height are assessed, and appropriate work equipment is selected and used. The risks of working on or near fragile surfaces are properly managed. The equipment used for work at height is properly inspected and maintained. What is the definition of a working platform? The Work at Height Regulations 2005 changed the meaning of working platforms, which were traditionally seen as fully boarded platforms with handrails and toe boards. A working platform can now be virtually any surface from which work can be carried out, such as a roof, a floor, a platform on a scaffold, mobile elevating work platforms, MUPs, the treads of a stepladder. What do the regulations say about guardrails in respect of working platforms? The regulations require that, for construction work, handrails have a minimum height of 950 mm, and that any gap between the top rail and any intermediate rail should not exceed 470 mm. The regulations also require toe boards to be suitable and sufficient, e.g. a toe board of a minimum 100 mm height would be acceptable. What is meant by collective and personal fall prevention measures? Collective protection is equipment that does not require the person working at height to act to be effective. Examples are permanent or temporary guardrails, scissor lifts and tower scaffolds. Personal protection is equipment that requires the individual to act to be effective. An example is putting on a safety harness correctly and connecting it, via an energy-absorbing lanyard, to a suitable anchor point. What do I need to know about using a MUP? If you are thinking of using a MUP, consider the following questions. Height: how high is the job from the ground? Application: do you have the appropriate MUP for the job? If you're not sure, check with the hirer or manufacturer. Conditions: what are the ground conditions like? Is there a risk of the MUP becoming unstable or overturning? Operators: are the people using the MUP trained, competent and fit to do so? Obstructions: could the MUP be caught on any protruding features or overhead hazards, e.g. steelwork, tree branches or power lines? Traffic: is there passing traffic and, if so, what do you need to do to prevent collisions? Restraint: do you need to use either work restraint, to prevent people climbing out of the MUP, or a fall arrest system, which will stop a person hitting the ground if they fall out? Allowing people to climb out of the basket is not normally recommended. Do you need to do this as part of the job? Checks: has the MUP been examined, inspected and maintained as required by the manufacturer's instructions, and have daily checks been carried out? Do's and don'ts of working at height. Do as much work as possible from the ground. Ensure workers can get safely to and from where they work at height. Ensure equipment is suitable, stable and strong enough for the job, maintained and checked regularly. Take precautions when working on or near fragile surfaces. Provide protection from falling objects. Consider emergency evacuation and rescue procedures. Don't overload ladders, Consider the equipment or materials workers are carrying before working at height. Check the pictogram or label on the ladder for information. Overreach on ladders or step ladders. Rest a ladder against weak upper surfaces, e.g. glazing or plastic gutters. Use ladders or step ladders for strenuous or heavy tasks. Only use them for light work of short duration, a maximum of 30 minutes at a time. Let anyone who is not competent, who doesn't have the skills, knowledge and experience to do the job, work at height.